I used to think that if I just loved her enough, I could fix whatever was broken inside her. I was wrong. The more I poured into her, the more of myself I lost. It wasn't until I was completely drained, just a hollowed-out version of the man I once was, that I finally learned a hard truth. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And sometimes, the strongest thing a man can do is walk away to save himself. Have you ever been there? Pouring every ounce of yourself into someone, believing your love is the one missing piece that will finally make them whole, only to feel yourself cracking apart in the process? You give your time, your energy, your patience, and your money, all for her happiness. You become her emotional manager, her cheerleader, her crisis negotiator, her rock. You tell yourself this is the noble thing to do. This is what a good, strong man does. He protects. He provides. He fixes. But what happens when the fixing never ends? What happens when the person you're trying to build up is the very one tearing you down? This is the paradox so many good men find themselves in. They walk into a relationship with the best intentions, to love, to support, to build a happy life, and end up in a state of constant emotional servitude. Now, this isn't about blaming women. This dynamic can happen to anyone, in any kind of relationship. But it's a story about understanding a pattern that is breaking good men. It's about the painful, but necessary, journey of realizing your first duty isn't to fix her, it's to protect your own peace. It always starts from a good place, compassion. You see her, and you see her potential. You see the brilliant, beautiful person she is underneath all the chaos, the anxiety, the past trauma, or the constant dissatisfaction. And you think, she just needs someone who believes in her. Someone stable. I can be that for her. This is the fixer mindset, and it feels right. As men, we're often taught that our value is in our ability to solve problems. We want to fix what's broken, complete the project, make things right. So when we see the person we love hurting, our instinct is to find a solution. In the beginning, it even feels heroic. She has a bad day, so you listen for hours and help her map out a plan to deal with her boss. She's fighting with a friend, and you become the diplomat, explaining the other side of the story. She feels lost, and you become her life coach, painting this vibrant picture of the future you know she can have. You're constantly scanning her moods, trying to solve problems before they even have a chance to upset her. You see her struggles as your own. Her anxieties become your anxieties. Her crises become your emergencies. You think that by absorbing her pain, you're showing her how much you love her. You're proving your worth. It's a role that feels powerful, even necessary at first. You feel needed, and in a world where men are often made to feel disposable, feeling needed is a powerful drug. This becomes your mission. You think, if I can just create enough stability, she'll be fine. If I can just show her enough love, her wounds will finally heal. If I'm just patient enough, she'll see her own worth. You tell yourself a noble lie, that your love is the cure. So you rearrange your life, your priorities, your boundaries, all to manage her emotional needs. You cancel plans with your friends because she's having a bad night. You let your own hobbies gather dust because all your free energy is going to her. You get so focused on her well-being that you completely forget about your own. This isn't love, it's a project. And you're the lead engineer, convinced you can build the perfect life for both of you. But you're building on a cracked foundation that you don't have the power to mend. The shift is so subtle at first you don't even notice it. But little by little, the dynamic changes. The more you give, the more she expects. The more you fix, the more things seem to break. Your efforts aren't met with gratitude anymore. They're met with the assumption that this is just your job. You're no longer her partner. You're her emotional janitor, constantly cleaning up messes you didn't make. This is where the burnout sets in. It's not just being tired. It's a deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. Every day feels like walking on eggshells. You're constantly monitoring her mood, trying to predict the next emotional flare-up, trying to steer the ship away from an iceberg you know is coming. You're living in a state of hypervigilance, and it's draining. You're no longer living in a partnership, you're working a job, and the emotional toll is immense. Then comes the disrespect. It's small things at first. She starts to see your stability as boredom. Many men are realizing that what they value most is peace, a safe harbor, not a constant battlefield. But in a world that often glorifies drama, that peace can get twisted. Your calm nature, the very thing that was supposed to be her anchor, is now seen as a lack of passion. Your refusal to get into petty fights isn't maturity, it's emotional distance. This is when the tests begin. They aren't obvious exams. They're subtle, manipulative games meant to get a reaction out of you. She might create drama out of thin air just to see if you'll fight for her. She might flirt with someone else to see if you get jealous. She brings up old mistakes just to see if you're still invested. These tests come from her own insecurity, but the cruelest part is this: the more you try to pass them by reassuring her, chasing her, and proving your love again and again, the more respect you lose. She doesn't see a devoted partner, she sees a man she can control. In her mind, being chased feels like being loved, and the more you chase, the less worthy of being caught you seem. You start to lose yourself. Your friends ask where you've been. Your family says you seem stressed out, distant. The hobbies that used to bring you joy feel like they belong to another person's life. You've wrapped so much of your identity into being her savior that you've forgotten who you are without her problems to solve. That's the trap of codependency. You can't tell the difference between your needs and her demands anymore. You're living in a state of chronic stress, and you feel completely alone, even when she's lying right next to you. The relationship that was supposed to be your greatest strength has become the single biggest drain on your life. For every man who's been in this cycle, there's a breaking point. It's usually not one big, dramatic explosion. It's more like the final, quiet crack in something that's been under too much pressure for too long. Maybe it's the moment when, after you've spent your entire day putting out her emotional fires, she looks at you blankly and asks, "So, what have you done for me lately?" Or maybe you're watching her create chaos with her friends or family, and you suddenly see the pattern with terrifying clarity, a pattern you've been enabling for months, maybe years. Or maybe it's just looking in the mirror one morning and not recognizing the tired, defeated man looking back at you. For me, it was a simple evening. She was upset over something trivial, another manufactured crisis that required my full, undivided attention. I went through the motions. I listened, I validated her feelings, I offered solutions. I spent hours calming her down, reassuring her, managing her emotions just like I always did. When it was finally over and a fragile peace returned, I just felt hollow. I had nothing left to give. Later that night, as I was lying in bed, she turned to me. Not with a thank you, not with any affection, but with a new complaint. A new problem. A new demand for my emotional energy. And in that moment, something inside me just snapped. It wasn't loud. It was a silent, internal break. I realized with this gut-wrenching certainty that this was never going to end. It didn't matter how much I gave, it would never be enough. I could pour my entire soul into her, and it would just disappear into a void that could never be filled. I wasn't her partner, I was her fuel. And I was running on empty. I finally understood I wasn't fixing her. I was enabling her. My constant rescuing was keeping her from ever having to face herself, develop her own strength, or take responsibility for her own happiness. My help was actually holding her back. And it was destroying me in the process. The most terrifying part was realizing she wasn't a villain. She wasn't doing it on purpose. She was just a person caught in her own destructive patterns, and I had willingly made myself a part of her storm. I had tied my ship to her anchor, and we were both sinking. That's when I knew. The more I tried to fix her, the more she was breaking me. And the only person who could save me was me. That breaking point, as awful as it is also a gift. It's the start of finding your way back to yourself. The solution isn't to find a new trick to fix her better. The solution is to change your entire mindset, and it starts with accepting one hard truth: you cannot save someone from themselves. Think about a butterfly in a cocoon. If you see it struggling and decide to help by cutting the cocoon open, the butterfly will come out, but its wings will be weak and it will never be able to fly. The struggle to break free is what gives the butterfly the strength it needs to live. By trying to save it from the struggle, you cripple it. The same is true for people. You cannot do someone's internal work for them. Their healing, their growth, that's their journey, and theirs alone. When you take responsibility for their emotions, you're not just draining yourself, you're also disrespecting them by implying they're too weak to handle their own lives. This leads to the next step, realizing that true strength isn't the ability to fix someone else. It's the strength to protect your own peace. We're often taught that a man's value comes from being useful, a provider, a protector, a problem solver. But we're rarely taught to be the guardian of our own inner calm. True masculine energy is calm confidence. It's having the composure to stay centered, even when chaos is swirling around you. It's having the wisdom to know which battles are yours to fight and which are not. A man who is at peace with himself, who has his own purpose, is magnetic. He provides stability not by trying to fix her world, but by being the unshakable master of his own. So what does this actually look like? It really boils down to a few key actions. First, you have to stop being the emotional repairman. When she comes to you with a problem, don't immediately jump into fix-it mode. Instead, just listen. Be present, but don't take ownership of her feelings. You can show support without becoming her savior. A simple phrase like, "That sounds really hard. I'm here for you," is way healthier than, "Okay, here's what you need to do." It shows you care, but it makes it clear that the problem and the feeling are hers to manage. Second, you have to set and enforce firm boundaries. A boundary isn't a wall you put up to keep people out, it's a rule you set that teaches people how to treat you. This is probably the hardest part. It means you have to learn to say no. No, I'm not going to be your emotional punching bag. No, I'm not having this same circular argument again. No, my peace of mind isn't up for debate. The first time you set these boundaries, she will probably push back. She might accuse you of being selfish or of not caring. This is the real test. You have to hold the line. Remember, prioritizing your own well-being isn't selfish. It's the only way a healthy relationship can survive. Third, you have to reconnect with your own life. All that energy you were pouring into her? It's time to pour it back into yourself. Get back to your hobbies. Call up those friends you haven't seen. Focus on your work, your fitness, your own growth. Find your mission again. A man who has a purpose isn't so easily knocked off course by someone else's drama. His identity isn't based on her approval. He has his own center of gravity. That's what it means to be a whole person in a relationship, not just one half of a codependent mess. Making the shift from fixer to self-protector is tough. It makes you face the fact that your good intentions might have been part of the problem. It means you might have to risk a relationship you've put so much into. But what's the alternative? To just keep letting yourself be broken on the altar of someone else's chaos? I learned that loving someone doesn't mean you have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Real, healthy love is a partnership between two whole people who support each other, but don't take responsibility for each other's happiness. It's a relationship where peace isn't seen as boring, but as the foundation where real intimacy can actually grow. Today, my life is built on one non-negotiable rule: my peace comes first. Not because I'm selfish, but because I finally understand that I can't be a strong, loving partner for anyone if I'm emotionally bankrupt. You can't pour from an empty cup. The ultimate strength of a man isn't his ability to endure endless storms for someone else. It's his wisdom to know when to drop anchor in a calm harbor and refuse to be swept out into a sea that isn't his to command. Your worth isn't measured by whether or not you can save her. Your worth is just your worth. And protecting it is your most important job. Don't drown trying to save someone who isn't willing to swim. Save yourself. Build a life where your peace is the foundation. From that place of strength, you can truly love and be loved in a way that builds both of you up, instead of breaking one of you down. I'm sure a lot of you have been through this. I'd be interested to hear about it. Share your story in the comments. What was your breaking point? And what did you learn when you got to the other side?